Hi, everybody. Okay, cool. So today we'll talk about how to build a beautiful website on SiteGround in less than 30 minutes using our tools. So before we get started, let me present myself. I'm Svetosław and I'm Customer Care Manager here at SiteGround. My job is to oversee the work of our operators and to read many of your chats and listen to many of your phone calls with them. While I'm doing this, I also work a lot with people from other departments to make sure each issue is being taken care of in a fast manner. Thank you. Yeah, I need some support, guys. Thank you. Cool. So today we'll focus on how to get started on SiteGround. I have already registered a hosting account, a startup hosting account on SiteGround, and I have already registered a new domain name. So we'll see how to set up our website and how to actually start building our website once we've done this. Now, regarding the webinar, there will be a recording. So those of you who missed the webinar would be able to watch it later. Additionally, there will be a Q&A session. So I would ask you, if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A panel so that at the end of the webinar, we can go through as many of them as we can. The webinar itself is going to be 40 minutes, and we'll try to fit all the questions in the remaining 10 to 15 minutes of our time. What else? I think my colleague would be able to help me if anything else is needed to be known about the webinar. So now I suggest we get started with our task at hand. Now, what happens when you register for a hosting account? Basically, we would create a user area, the so-called SiteGround client area for you. And from that client area, you would be able to manage all your websites, all your hosting packages, your domains. You would be able to manage your personal information, payment information, and of course, have access to many resources on how to build a beautiful website. Now, how do we access the client area? It's actually very easy. What we need to do is to go to SiteGround.com and click on the login button here. Once I do this, the only thing that I need to do is to type in my password. And this will bring me into my client area. Now, the first thing that we see in the client area is this blue banner. The blue banner prompts us to set up our first website. And this is actually extremely important because without setting up our website, we cannot start to fully use our hosting package features. Okay? So before we do anything in our hosting account, we need to set up our website. And I know that for some people, you might prefer to have somebody else, like your developer, for example, set up the hosting account for you. Still, this task is something that you should do, and we've made it very easy. Today, I'll show you how exactly. Even if you start clicking around, you will still see that your setup is not complete and that you need to finish your website setup. So eventually you would be brought to the same step. Now, before I go ahead with this, I wanted to show you also a bit more things that you can see in your user area homepage. Below this blue banner, you see the notification center. In the center, you will be seeing important messages from SiteGround regarding your hosting account, your website, or your domain name. As you can see, even though our hosting account is brand new, we pretty much haven't done anything on our hosting account, we already have a notification. If you registered a new account and you registered a new domain name with us, like a new .com domain name with us, you would have the very same notification. This notification is shown because whenever you register a new .com or any popular domain extension such as .net or .info, you will need to go through the so-called validation process for that domain name. You would receive an email from us where you need to click and confirm your details. Once you do this, the notice that you see here would disappear in up to 24 hours. It won't disappear instantly, but within a couple of hours after you do this, it will be gone for good. Cool. If you don't do this in 15 days, your website might become unresponsive. So I always recommend to clients to do it as soon as they can. Below the important notification, there is a walkthrough. So it's like a step-by-step tutorial on how to get started. Whether you're transferring a website that already exists on another provider to SiteGround, or you're setting up a new website, like creating one from zero on SiteGround, this walkthrough would help you to do the steps, because there are a couple of steps that you need to take in a specific order. So here you would be able to see the exact logical order in which you need to take them. Of course, today you're lucky because we're basically going to do this together. Okay, so you don't have to go through these steps alone. Now that we've covered the most important parts of the homepage of the client area, I suggest we go ahead with the website setup wizard so that I can show you how easy it is to use it and to create your first website. Now, in order to avoid any connectivity issues, I have prepared a short video on the process, but I promise that I'll be explaining each step and we can get started. So what happens once we click Setup Site? We will be brought to the website setup wizard. Now, with this wizard, we create new websites on SiteGround. So on startup, I can have just one single website, but we have hosting packages that offer unlimited websites. So each time I want to add a new website, I need to go through this very same process, meaning that once you see it for the first time, you will know how to repeat it in the future. So the first step of the website setup process is to select your domain name. And now I'm going to use this opportunity to explain a little bit better the difference between a domain and a website, because I know that a lot of people tend to be confused. If, like, the domain name is actually the address of your website, like the URL that you type in the browser. For instance, SiteGround.com. This is a domain name. Website, on the other hand, is like the content of the website. So once you type SiteGround.com, you would open some visual elements, text, and so on. This is the website. Before we can set up our website, we need to choose a domain name for it. And at this step, we have three different options, three choices. New domain means that we can register a new domain for our website. So we don't have the domain name yet. We don't own it. We haven't purchased it yet. And here we can purchase it directly from SiteGround. Since I purchased my domain name upon sign up, obviously this option does not interest me. The second option here, existing domain, means that we are setting up a website with a domain name that we have already purchased. Now, we can purchase it from SiteGround, or we can purchase it with another domain provider. In case we purchase it with SiteGround, the setup is very easy. In case we have purchased it with another provider, it's also totally fine. However, just bear in mind that there would be an extra step so that you can point your external domain name to your SiteGround website. In order to connect them, you would need to do the domain pointing process. You would need the name servers from us. Now, since I registered the domain name upon sign up, as you can see, the system has already pre-selected the existing domain name option because it assumes that this is the domain that I want to use. And that's exactly what I will do. I will set up my website with the domain that I registered. The third option here, temporary domain, would give you access to a domain name that we have created for you. Imagine it as a placeholder domain where you can start building your website, or in case you're moving a website from another provider, where you can preview your website on our servers before you can connect your external domain name. So this is very helpful in case you have a brilliant idea for a website. However, your domain name, like, you haven't figured out what domain you should register. You don't have inspiration for the actual name yet. So yeah, you can use the temporary domain name in these two situations. Now, I'll go ahead with the existing domain and go to the next step of the website setup process, which is to actually choose my application. So here I have two different choices. I can either install a new application with the Start New Website, or I can migrate, I can transfer an existing website, an existing project that I have with somebody else. Okay, so today we'll focus on installing a new application, but I'll also mention a few quick words about those of you who are migrating a website instead. So Once we select Start a New Website, we see that the menu is expanded with a few website building applications. Nowadays, most of the websites are actually built on a specific website building application. Very few of them, like very minor part of the websites, is built from scratch, like from the ground up. So by far, the most popular website building application is called WordPress. Hopefully, or even surely, all of us have heard about WordPress. It's the biggest website building application. It powers over 40% of all websites over the internet. WordPress is very flexible. It's very easy to use, like almost no coding skills are required. And what is the most important thing, at least for myself, is that WordPress has a huge ecosystem built around it. Okay, so you can choose between many pre-made designs for your website. You can easily add more functionality to your website. You can rely on hundreds of services that can maintain your website, that can help you to further develop it after a certain point. It's primarily used as a blog. Okay, so if you want a blog, or if you want to create a portfolio website, probably WordPress is the way to go. The next application here is WooCommerce. So WooCommerce is essentially like an add-on, at least we'll call it like this for now, for WordPress. And it turns the otherwise blogging website into a web shop. So if you want to sell online, like if you want to sell products and be able to upload products and have a checkout process and everything, then you can choose WooCommerce. Working with WooCommerce is as easy as working with WordPress, pretty much. And the last option here, Weebly Site Builder, it is like what you see is what you get kind of site builder. So through a simple interface, you can drag and drop elements on your screen. And at the end, you can have a simple, straightforward website with a few pages. Honestly, most of the time, WordPress is as easy to use as Weebly, but it's more flexible. So I usually recommend WordPress exactly for that purpose. Now, before we go ahead, I promise that I would also talk a little bit about migrating a website. So if you're one of our clients who would like to migrate the website to SiteGround, obviously you need to click on Migrate Website, and then the menu is expanded with two additional options. Now, the first one, WordPress Auto Migration, is the recommended option in case you're transferring a WordPress website. We recommend it because it's fast and it's free. And the actual migration, the actual transfer happens very easily. What we will do is to give you like a download link from which you can download our auto migration plugin. And the only steps that you need to take are to install it on your website and then paste a key, like a transfer key, that we would automatically generate for you. Once you've done this, the migration would initiate, and within a few minutes, the migration would be done, and no additional action would be required from your end, except for, of course, pointing your external domain name to SiteGround through the DNS. Alternatively, or in case your website is not WordPress, you can also rely on our team, our technical support team. So we can also move your WordPress website or any website, usually at an additional fee. Right now we have this summer promotion, so the first transfer to your website would be free. If you signed up recently, odds are here you would see that we do the service free of charge. Now that we've covered these two options, let's go back to our topic at hand. And before I go ahead and install WordPress, let me just briefly mention that here, even though you see just 3 different applications, we support many more website building applications. Okay, so in case you want to install a different website building application, or, now this is very important, in case you have a developer who would like to set up the application for you, you can also click the Skip and Create Empty Site button, which is at the bottom of the page. Now, with this Skip and Create Empty Site button, what we will do is to create like a parking spot for your website, where later on you or your developer would be able to set up the website. Cool. Now that we've covered this, let's go ahead with our WordPress application. What we need to do now is to type our email and our password. These would be the credentials that we would use in order to log in into our website. I always recommend to people to use different credentials here that are not the same as the credentials for their SiteGround account. We do this for security purposes. Of course, we don't really want to use the same pair of logins on multiple places. So you can even use our generate password button in case you cannot easily come up with a strong password. Once we click on continue, we will be brought to the last step of the setup process, the step where we can add some extras. The first extra that we can add here is our site scanner. The site scanner is an amazing tool that scans your website for malware, and it also notifies you by email. Additionally, you can run deep file scans in case you want to check if your website is clean. Recently, we upgraded it. The site scanner also has a premium version in which you have even more control. You can see who uploads malicious files in real time, and you can instantly quarantine these files and isolate them from the rest of your website to keep your website security and ensure the safety of your visitors. The other extra here, domain privacy, would hide your personal details from third parties who might have access to the full whois information. Now, for those of you who don't know what whois is basically domain lookup tools like public websites where people can search for your domain name. So part of the personal information related to your domain name might be visible on whois. To hide the personal information visible on whois, you can use the domain privacy feature. Once you're settled with your extras choice, you click on finish. And now what will happen is that the system will slowly start to installing our website. I said slowly, but as a matter of fact, it takes like just a few minutes. And in the meantime, what is happening in the backend is that we would be installing the WordPress software on the website. Okay, I'm saying this because very often people come to the live chat and they ask whether they need to go to WordPress.org and download the software. And once downloaded, whether they should upload it to SiteGround and how. Now, the good news is that you don't need to do this. Okay, with this setup, we will be installing the website for you. We will be managing essentially the whole process. This is part of our WordPress managed service. And as part of this managed service, later on, we would also manage your WordPress auto updates. So we take care of this. We take this maintenance off your shoulders while you can fully focus on your project. Once the website is installed, we see the next steps. We see some additional buttons here, some additional options. The first button is to access the WordPress admin. Now, this will bring us directly into the backend of our website. The backend of our website would be the place from which we would be uploading new posts, new pages, pictures, and other content. The other button here would bring us to Site Tools. Site Tools is the hosting control panel of your site. From Site Tools, you will be able to manage additional services related to your website. Let's say you can manage your backups, or you can manage your SSL certificate, for example. The tools in Site Tools are grouped by topic, so you can easily find them. Okay, and what is more, most of these tools take just a few quick clicks in order to do the task at hand. Usually it's just a single click for most of these tasks. So today we're focusing on what to do on the backend of WordPress. There we go. Now, we logged into our WordPress admin, and as a fact, this is not what the backend of our website usually looks like. Okay, this is another special setup that we have created exclusively for SiteGround customers so that you get a jump start at actually starting to build your website. Why am I saying this? Usually when you install WordPress, you install it with the default design, with the default template. and you install it with the basic base functionalities. If you want your website to stand out, apparently you need to personalize it, you need to customize it. So with this custom setup that we made for you, you're able to do this easily in just a few quick steps. Of course, if you don't want to do this, you can also click on exit. Okay, so this would skip the setup entirely. If this is your first website though, I totally recommend you to use the setup. So let's click on start now. And this brings us to the first step of our WordPress starter experience. The first step of this experience, we need to choose a design for our website. So the design of our website is extremely important because this is basically the first thing that people would see when they land on our page. Okay, so we need to choose a design that is fitting, a design that makes sense for what we want to show these people on our website. Here, you'll be able to choose between tens of different themes developed especially for SiteGround. They're all free of charge, and you can also filter them by categories. So depending on what you want to use your website for, you can choose a design that fits your website topic. Whenever you hover over a theme, as you can see, there is a magnifier glass that appears. If you click on the glass, you can see a preview of the website. So essentially, once the theme is installed, this is what the website would look like. Okay, it would have some default content that you can start replacing with your own personal content. You can start adding your own images. You can start adding your own texts. Cool. So I'll select this theme. By the way, if you don't want to select any of these themes because, for example, you have downloaded a theme from a third party, or if you wonder whether the design that you have chosen can be changed later on, the answer is you can either skip and go on with the default WordPress design, or you can choose a theme now and eventually change it later on. That is totally okay. For now, I will choose this minimal blog theme because I really like it. And once I choose the design of my website, I'm brought to the second step of this additional website setup process. At this step, I'm able to add some additional functionality to my website. So I can now upgrade a little bit on the core features of WordPress. For instance, if I want to keep in touch with the visitors of my website, I can add a contact form on my website so that visitors can easily reach out to me. Okay. If I'm a local business and I want to show my location, I can also add a map functionality so that people on my website can see where exactly I'm based. Also, if, for example, I'm hosting some events, I can add a calendar functionality on my website, which means that I would be able to display events directly on my site. People would be able to sign up for my events directly on my site. These functionalities come as plugins for WordPress. Now, if you don't know what a plugin is essentially a piece of software that extends the functionality of my website. Usually, if you want to add something else on the website, if you want your website to be able to do more, you would need to have this function built for you. With WordPress, though, you can simply find the plugin that works for you, that does this job, install it on your website, and have this functionality already working. So this is how big ecosystem WordPress is and why it's so useful. I would also use this opportunity to mention that these are third-party plugins, but they're developed by trusted developers. So we do recommend them to you. They're fully compatible with your hosting package. Once we are done with the plugin selection, we click on Continue, and this brings us to the third and last step of the website setup process. Now here, we start talking about marketing. Okay, even if we have like the most brilliant website with the best content and everything, if people are unable to find us, well, it would be a bit pointless. So it's very important to make sure that our website can be found, can be reached by people. One of the plugins that I recommend here is the SEO plugin. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. This is what is generally responsible for how high on Google results would our site appear. The better SEO our website has, the more optimized it is for search engines, the higher our website would appear on search results. With this plugin, we will be able to easily improve the SEO of our website and make it more available to people over the internet. Another plugin that I can recommend here is Google Analytics, because we will be able to integrate our Google Analytics account with our website, and we will be able to see additional information about what our visitors' behavior is. So this information would help us build more quality content for our visitors, and eventually use this content to attract even more visitors. Cool. So once we are done with our plugins, let's click on complete. And now the setup will begin installing the theme that we have chosen, plus the plugins. This might take some time depending on how many plugins we chose, but I'll use this time to also mention that we would install by default 2 additional plugins with each new WordPress website on SiteGround. These are going to be the SiteGround Optimizer and the SiteGround Security plugins. With these 2, your website will be up to 5 times faster, and it would be secure against most common hacks and other common exploits. Now, the best thing about these plugins is that they just work out of the box. So we install them for you, and you don't even need to do any complex configuration, do any complex setup. Once the setup of our website is completed, we see 2 buttons. So the first button, Go to Dashboard. This will bring us to the back end of our website. We said this is the admin panel of our website, the place from which we can manage our posts, media, pages, we can change our design, and so on. You can hear it as a backend or as dashboard. All these terms refer to the same thing. The other button here, View Site, would bring us to the front end of our website, the part of the website that is visible by anyone over the internet. While the backend, obviously, would be visible only by us. So I'll now click on View Website and display the front end of my site. Even if you type my domain name in your browser, you would see pretty much the same website. This is the front end of my site. Now, a common pitfall is that whenever people set up a new website, they tend to search for it in Google and they want to find it immediately. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, because Google uses very, I would call them, complex algorithms. It would take some time for your website to appear on Google. With time, with quality content, and with good care of your website SEO, partially with the plugin that we have suggested, your website will slowly start appearing higher and higher on Google. Okay, but right now, the only way to access my website would be to directly type it in the browser. Google will not display it yet. Usually it takes anywhere between a few days up to a few weeks before the website appears there. So yeah, this is the front end of our site. Now, I'm not sure if you're noticing, but there is also this black bar. It's visible only by me, because right now I'm logged into my website. When I set it up from my SiteGround account, and when I clicked on log into admin, I logged into the back end of my website. And this black bar is visible by me because I'm inside my site. So I have additional management options for my site. Now, if I want to switch from the front end of my website to the back end of my website, I simply need to go to my WordPress right here on the top left and click on Dashboard. And this would actually bring us into the back end of our site. Again, we said this would be the place where we would be spending most of our time. This is the place where we would be adding more posts and pages and content overall to our website. Now the entire navigation here happens through this left-hand menu, okay? For example, from posts, we can manage or create new posts on our website. From pages, we can manage or create new pages on our website. Let's say an About Me page. That would be the place from which I need to create it. From comments, we can manage the comments on our website left by visitors on our website. We can approve them, we can answer them, and so on. From appearance, we can change our website design. And from plugins, we can add more plugins. We can add additional functionality on our website. Now, today, we won't be able to cover all these sections. However, we will send you a tutorial on how you can get familiar with these sections and learn how to work with them. Now, this is our backend, and for now, the browser remembers our session, okay? But after some time, our session would expire, so we would be logged out from our backend. So it's important that we know how to get back in, okay? How to get back to this backend page. Now, I will log out now, so I can simulate what you need to do in case you need to log into your WordPress backend. Now, this is my website. That's how you see it, if you're perhaps there, without the black bar at the top. To log in into my website backend, what I need to do is to type /wp-admin. Okay, guys, this is the way to access our WordPress backend. We type our domain /wp-admin. Once we do this, we will be redirected to the WordPress login screen. So from here, we need to insert our username and password, and we would gain instant access to our website. Cool. From your SiteGround account, you can also access your WordPress dashboard. You just need to go to websites, and there you will be able to see WP admin button. This button would bring you directly to the dashboard without typing your username or password. Keep in mind that if you forget your password, you should use this lost your password button. Don't try to log in too many times with your wrong password, because one of our plugins, the SiteGround Security, it will block suspicious login attempts. So if you make too many login attempts that fail, you might get locked from your website, and you might have to wait 1 hour before you can retry. Always reset your password first. Cool. And I think that with this, we have covered pretty much all the essential parts of the today webinar. Now, as I promised, I'll check all the questions in the Q&A panel. Okay, so I can start by answering the most voted questions. So, easy transfer from staging to live. Now, I guess lots of our friends here, lots of the people who are watching us don't know what staging is. Staging is essentially like a test environment for our website, like a copy of our website where we can make changes and then easily push changes to our live website. With SiteGround, you get access to a staging tool, which creates a copy of your website with a single click, and you can easily publish your changes on this staging copy, and then with a single click, publish all the changes to your live website. So you don't have to do any manual work. So yes, how easy to transfer from staging to live should be quite easy with the staging tool. Okay, once I've used the theme to design my website, can I change themes without having to redesign and re-upload content? Does the theme transfer all the existing design pages across? Now, I have some bad news, because if you change your theme, you're essentially changing your design, okay? If at some point you decide to switch your theme, you would have to start from scratch, at least from the design point of view. However, in terms of content, such as pages, articles, pictures, everything would be there. So you're not starting your whole website from scratch, rather just the design part, like the visual part of the website. And to be perfectly honest, it's usually a matter of some additional clicks, some additional tweaks, unless, of course, your new design is totally different from the old design. So that's why I said at the beginning that even if you decide to change your theme, that's not an issue. You won't lose all the progress you've made on your website. You only need to do some tweaking, like something extra in terms of your website design. All right, is it okay to use both the Gutenberg Builder and Elementor, or should I just stick with one throughout my entire website? Now that's indeed a very good question. I know that Elementor is very easy to use for most of the newbies. So perhaps if you start using Elementor and you're comfortable with it, you can use Elementor on all your pages. Better stick with just one of them. For me personally, Gutenberg is also quite easy. Maybe the learning curve is a bit different, a bit more steep, let's say, but otherwise, like, both of them should do just fine for you. But it's best to stick to just one of them. Okay, client area is untranslated in French. Would it be possible to translate site admin in French? Yes. So WordPress supports multiple languages. Okay, you can translate your WordPress into tens of different languages. French is one of them. So yes, you can use WordPress in French, even though the SiteGround client area is not translated in French, not yet at least. Oh, I missed one. Does WordPress also allow you to sell your services? Yes, so you can sell digital products on WordPress, like digital products, services. That's perfectly fine. Usually people would use WooCommerce for that. Okay, so if you want to sell your services, your products, you can install WooCommerce, and with WooCommerce you can easily set this up. Yeah. How many email addresses can I have associated with my site and domain name? That's a very good question. On SiteGround, you can create unlimited email accounts. This is thanks to our business email service. So yeah, you can have multiple. We have Divi theme, live license, and limited sites. Where can I automatically install Divi site with SiteGround site admin? Now for this type of themes, usually there is a different installation process. Like you need to download Divi either from the repository, from the place where all themes are uploaded, or usually when you purchase Divi, they would give you a link from which you can download like a zip file, like an archive, and then upload it to your website. So in the setup that I showed you, Divi is not part of it because it was not developed especially for SiteGround. It is available freely to multiple people, not just SiteGround clients. So Divi is not part of this setup, but still you can install it almost as easy as you can install. And by the way, our team can also install a WordPress template for you for a fee. So even if you cannot do this by yourself, we can also help you. How do I change temporary domain to true domain name after I purchase the domain? Okay, so if you created the website on a temporary domain name and later on you want to change it to your actual domain name, the first step would be to actually purchase the real domain name that you want to use. And then the next step would be to change your website primary domain name and replace the temporary domain with the actual domain name that you got. You can do this from websites in your SiteGround client area. Once you go to the kebab menu, like the three dots menu of your website, there is the button Change Primary Domain. So from there, with just a single click, you can replace your temporary domain with the real domain name. Now that I'm watching this tutorial, I want to start over the site I started. How to scrap what I have and start from scratch. You'll be able to delete your website again from your client area, websites, and then from the three dots menu, there is the option to delete the website. Or you can, of course, come to us and we can also assist you with this. Cool. Can we have a webinar to understand how to use an external theme, please? It's quite confusing how this works with all the options. We can definitely think about having a separate webinar on choosing a specific theme and going about installing a specific theme on the website. To be perfectly honest, the process is relatively straightforward. Of course, depending on the theme and on who developed the theme, there might be some different steps involved. Pretty much all the themes are installed from the WordPress backend, from the dashboard. When I add an additional website, is it a separate website or a subdomain? It's going to be a separate website. So from the 3 steps wizard that I show you at the beginning, when you add a website from it, you add it as a separate website. It has nothing to do with your already existing site. It's totally separate, totally different. Cool. Okay. Yes, I would like to address a question regarding the malware on the website. They cannot infiltrate my website, right? As of when malware is detected, how do we intervene to help? Now, what we do for you is to make sure that your website is as secure versus malware as possible. This is done on one hand with the SiteGround security plugin, on the other hand with lots of security features that we give you with your hosting package, that they just work. You get a firewall, you get monitoring, you get constant updates to ensure that your website is not infected. In case your website does get infected, then we can also give you some tips on how you can resolve this. Cool. I already have the plugins WP Optimize and WordPress Security. Both are free versions. Is there any conflict with your 2 plugins? Now, probably you're talking about SiteGround Security, not SiteGround Optimizer, because SiteGround Optimizer has to do with speed. WordPress Security and SiteGround Security have to do with, apparently, security. So the answer is WordPress Security and SiteGround Security, they can work together, but to be perfectly honest, you can stay with the SiteGround Security because it does pretty much the same without any complex setup required. So I would advise you to stay with SiteGround Security. Cool. All right. And last question. If someone else is building my site, can I add them to my account so that they can, with a separate login, or do I just give them my login? Giving your login is never recommended, okay? So avoid giving your own logins at all costs. What we do is to give you access to our collaborator feature, with which you can create a separate login for your developer or the person who is helping you. They would have full access to your website, but they won't have any access to any of your personal details, your payments, even your personal emails. So yeah, no need to give your logins. Instead, with just a few clicks, you can create a separate pair of logins for the person helping you. And I think that we covered most of the main questions. And I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you guys for staying with me today. Thank you for sharing this beautiful morning or beautiful afternoon. I hope the webinar was helpful for you. I hope that you learned something new. I very much thank you for all the positive comments, and I'll make sure to think what other webinar we can make for you so that it's helpful and it helps you master the art of building websites. Thank you again, and see you next time.